We've had lads come on loan from Bournemouth at previous clubs and places like that where they come into the team and they're not up to scratch and they can't really hack the men's game because they've been so used to pass where we just thought that it's a direct game. Someone from a 23s game been playing constantly all season 23s into a National League North game on a Tuesday night. Yeah, they struggle. And they're just nowhere near it because they can't get used to the environment and can't get used to the bobbly, horrible pitches. You're going to get some 35-year-old bloke coming in the dressing room tearing you to shreds, and you've got to be able to take that on the chin and handle that.
Pressure as a unit!
When I tell you to do something, and you when I tell you to do something, do it. And if you come back at me, we'll have right sort out here.
When you get older, it must be near impossible to get a good move. Yeah.
Really? But what about the stories that you see in the media, like Jamie Vardy, Ian Wright and Kevin Keegan? There was something online that said the average wage for a National League player is £700 a week.
Parents sometimes don't understand what comes with the negative side of how hard it is.
All of us have sacrificed a lot probably to get to where we are, but if we wanted to maybe go further, we probably could have done more.
Welcome back to Project Footballer, the voice of youth football. So this is a quick pre-introduction to the episode, which is becoming a bit of a ritual now, but I thought it was helpful to give an explanation about what you might learn from listening to this episode. If your child is pursuing professional football, you probably understand that statistically, most U Academy kids don't play in the Premier League or even the Championship. If they do get paid to play football, statistically, most academy players play in the lower leagues. So as a parent pursuing professional football for your child, you really do need to know what lower league football is like, because I didn't until this episode. In this conversation, we speak to 3 players who play for Scunthorpe United. You'll learn about their journeys into football. We explain about the lower league structure, the type of football that's played in the National League, and that the average wage of a National League player is £36,000 per year. I think it was interesting that when I asked each of the players if they would get their children to pursue professional football, they all pretty much said no. It was also interesting to discover that there are almost 2 separate sports being played, with the introduction of VAR at the top level, but without it at lower levels, it's becoming a different type of football. I hope this episode gives you a really well-balanced picture of what it can be like to play lower league football, which is the reality for most professional footballers in the UK. I don't want this to seem all negative. These guys are professional footballers, doing a job they love, playing in front of passionate fans. Like, you can make your own mind up listening to this episode. I would like to give a huge thank you to Scunthorpe United Football Club for giving us the opportunity to use their facilities to film the episode and also giving us access to speak to their players. Scunthorpe are an amazing club with a rich history, and it's exciting to see their new ownership have an immediate effect on the club after difficult times in recent years. If you enjoyed this episode, you can show some support to Scunthorpe by using the links in the show notes to maybe buy a shirt, enter their lottery, or even just buy a mug. It all really helps the club. But now, let's get into the episode. So guys, would you mind just introducing yourselves? Just tell us how long you've been at the club and your positions, if that's all right.
Well, I'll start. I've been here, Regan Ogle, so I've been here about a year and a half now, and fullback.
Okay.
And you go, mate?
Yeah, so Ross Barrows, been at the club, just signed this summer, so just a few months in, but was previously here as a young kid in the academy and defender.
Connor Smith. I'm on loan from Hearts in Scotland, and I've been here for about 2 months maybe, and I'm a winger.
Okay.
So, I mean, Australian?
Yep.
Scott, how did you guys end up at Scunthorpe? For me, it was just I've been playing in Scotland my whole life and just wanted to try something different. And speaking to my dad, and I thought try and go down to England and try and see what it's about down there. So Scunthorpe made an offer for me, so I thought I'd come and try it out.
So you was at Hearts through the academy?
Yeah, I've been at Hearts since I've been 6-year-old, and I've been on about 6 loans now. So it's all been in Scotland, and I just wanted to try come down to England and see what it was like, and I'm enjoying it so far.
So, sorry, how old are you?
21.
21. So you've already had 6 loans?
Could be 7. Could be 7. 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I know.
And so,
Sorry.
Oh,
yeah. Australia. How did you go from Australia to Scunthorpe?
Well, funnily enough, I've been in England 13 years. So moved over here when I was about 11. Kind of floated around between a few teams. I was at Accrington Stanley for a long time. Come through the academy there. Lucky enough to make my first appearance there in the league. And then just went on a few loans like Connor, just trying to get as much kind of experience in men's football as you can. Then after kind of a couple of years as a pro there, ended up at Hartlepool. Spent a year out of a 2-year deal there, and that's when Scunthorpe kind of come in and showed a bit of interest in me, and it was too good a deal to turn down. Come here and kind of play as much football as possible, and don't regret it for a second.
So you've kind of still gone through the English system, or because you've been here since you secondary school?
Yeah, 100%. So I think all my kind of development in football has been here. It's the reason why I kind of moved here at the end of the day, and it's probably gone on for a lot longer than maybe we first thought when we first moved over here. But yeah, it's like I said before, I wouldn't change it for the world.
And you're born and bred?
Yeah, born and bred. I mean, my mum's Scottish, but my dad's Jamaican, but born in Sheffield. That's where I've lived my whole life.
Cool.
So for our international audience that don't really understand the English football structure, could one of you paint a picture of how many leagues we have, where Scunthorpe are in the English pyramid?
One of you are better doing that.
Well, obviously you got the Premier League, which obviously in terms of the whole pyramid, the Premier League's obviously step 1.
Right.
And then you got the Championship, League 1, League 2. So that's fully professional, so to speak. Even though we are professional because we train every day, it's our full-time jobs, that they're kind of known as the professional leagues.
Okay.
And then from then you got the non-league pyramid.
Yeah.
So you got the National League and then the National League North and South, where it splits into 2. Yeah. I think that's mainly just to help with logistics of the travelling for a lot of clubs, because a lot of the teams in our league, the North and the South, are part-time still.
Okay.
So a lot of people have other jobs and things like that. So Scunthorpe, us at the minute, we're in the National League North. So just 2 leagues below the Football League.
Yeah. And isn't there 7 steps? I think there's 7 that are...
Yeah, so we're the 7th step in terms of the whole pyramid. But in terms of the non-league pyramid, we're step 2.
Get you. Okay.
So you said that you guys are full-time. Is that more common or not with the National League, North and South? Are there more full-time players or part-time players, do you think?
I'd say when you drop into the North and South, it would be predominantly part-time. We're obviously very lucky enough to kind of still be full-time. A lot of clubs now, I think they're looking down the route of that hybrid kind of scheme, which will go to 3 times a week throughout the day, and obviously allows players that are already there to keep the day jobs or mix it up. And then obviously the National League above us now is predominantly full-time. I mean, all the teams in there, it's just another kind of League 2 in a sense that the standard there is frightening now. Yeah. It's such a tough league to get out of. So it is a big jump if you do come from the North or South leagues and you are a part-time team to go into that league.
Mm. But Ross, I saw on your Instagram you do some coaching on the outside. Is that right?
Yeah. So I have my own one-to-one coaching business in terms of helping the younger players go and achieve their dreams in terms of what I'm doing now, really. Yeah. But that was my job when I was part-time. But also for me, it was kind of like you touched on earlier at the start about we're not Premier League players. We don't earn the money that all the Prem players earn. So for me, that's kind of something preparing for when I finish playing.
Okay. So do you still do it now?
Yeah, so I do that Monday to Friday. So I finish training here, I'll go home, recover, have some food, and then I'll go and coach.
Is that the majority of players have a second job here, or not?
Don't think so. Some players do. There's a couple that do.
There's a handful that kind of all start to do something to progress into.
That's what I was going to say. kind of like what's described as like a side hustle.
Yeah.
It might not necessarily be like another job. Like
something you can do.
But
when you finish training and kind of doing your own hours, I think there's a lot of lads that are starting to find little bits and pieces to do.
Because it might be like topping up the income.
Yeah.
Do you mind like trying to give a picture to people? There was something online that said the average wage for a National League player would be £700 a week. But then if there's essentially like two National Leagues, like two parts of it, then that could be quite wide ranging. The players in the National League could be earning, I don't know, a couple of thousand a week. And then it could like drop the average right down with National League South.
I think it all depends on your budget as a club. Right. If you're a big club, you have a lot of income, like your fan bases and things like that, which the club here, we rely a lot on the fans coming through the gate in terms of which help fund the club. Then you also got other clubs, for example, like your Wrexhams or places like that. Yes, they rely on that, but also they got big, obviously Hollywood owners who are worth millions. So they can afford to, and they can get big sponsors in and things like that. So their budget can be higher.
Do any of you know what like a Wrexham player is on?
I think
Depends which Wrexham player you talk
about. I think like Ross said, it varies so much. The standard is getting higher because bigger teams are in this league can pay more, so they're getting better players in, and that's kind of how the league's going. And it is then tough for the other teams that kind of, like I said, step up from north and south that don't have that funding and just got to kind of roll with the punches in a sense. So it's kind of, it is tough to gauge, but it'll vary so much throughout the league.
I've read some of the bigger players in the National League run sort of between 3 and 6 a week.
Really?
Good, if you're at one of the top National League clubs who, for example, a lot of the top National League clubs were ex-Football League.
Yeah.
So they've still got obviously the big fan bases from when they was in the league. So you got your Chesterfields and obviously last season County and Wrexham, they're Football League clubs, so they've still got that big massive fan base where they can afford to pay those players that kind of money.
It's helpful to know because parents can then start to understand if they're working with their child to help them be a footballer and they're committing so much effort. I mean, in London, it's crazy. Like some parents are even homeschooling, they're driving their kids that are 7 years old to maybe like 5 clubs a week. That's extreme, but I'm just giving you an idea. It's like a lot of one-to-one sessions, a lot of hours of practice. But I think some parents are saying, well, there's this golden ticket at the end. If like we could do it, if we could make our child a footballer, then the rewards are there. But then they do also need to understand, well, you're not, like we said at the start, not all going to play Premier League. So then getting a picture of if they do end up playing in lower divisions, what does that look like? What is a picture of your like day-to-day schedule? Like what are you doing day-to-day?
Just depends here because in Scotland we usually just play every Saturday, but here we've been playing every Tuesday and Saturday because there's 24 teams in the league. So on a Monday it's just recovery really. Don't really do much. Usually we get Sunday and Wednesdays off, and then on a Thursday it's just light as well because we've got a game on Saturday, and then Friday as well. It's just shaped towards a game Saturday, so you don't really train much because there's 2 games a week, and then all the facilities here are brilliant, and there's like food as well, which is you get breakfast, you get lunch, and you wouldn't expect it from a team that's in the National League North, but it's a lot better than what I expected before I came down.
Okay, how have you adapted to living in Scunthorpe?
It was tough at the start. I thought at the start it was hard to come down by myself because I'd never been away from home.
Yeah.
But now that I'm here and I'm playing, I'm enjoying it, and I'm loving life now that I'm playing. So, but it was very tough at the start.
I was going to ask, like, the facilities and the resources that you guys get. So you're injured at the moment, so like access to physios and all that sort of stuff. Is that all taken care of by the club? Like, the club big enough to look after all that sort of stuff? Like you said, you get food and everything else. Do you have to like go to anyone else outside of here to get anything, or is it all just the club's?
As far as injuries go, we've got obviously physios in with us every day, so I know I've got to come in a little bit earlier than everyone else, see them before training, and they kind of look over kind of how I've improved, or if I haven't improved, and then you just kind of crack on. We've got obviously a gym downstairs and everything that we kind of need here, so we can kind of just obviously we've got a strength conditioning coach in as well, so they kind of help you massively with all that day-to-day stuff. As for outside of it, I wouldn't say, apart from obviously if you got to go for a scan or vice versa, something like that, an X-ray, then you have to either go to the hospital or go to a special kind of sports clinic to get that done. But I'd say in the foremost, the club will sort that all out for you and kind of help you out with all that, which is obviously at the end of the day kind of their part of their job to do so. So I think I was fine with getting mine done the other week. There was no problems with that. Sorted out quick and easy.
Yeah, it's one of the big things I try and kind of promote and communicate with the players and the parents I work with is, like you said, Premier League down to League 2 is technically professional.
Yeah.
But now there's so much money involved in national leagues. Like you guys are full-time professionals and you're getting looked after, nutrition, physio, everything else. So it's becoming a professional football player. And I think in the next 5 to 10 years, this national level will also be deemed as professional as well. It kind of unofficially is already. But I think
I like to call the National League League 3, personally. It essentially is League 3, because I think you've seen a lot of the teams that get promoted from the National League, they never hardly ever come back down. They always kind of kick on again to either go on to League 1 or they'll be pushing at the top of League 2.
I think Wrexham and Notts are both in League 2, like flying high in League 2. They're not just in there and all of a sudden in the relegation zone already. Yeah,
there's teams like over the years, I think you've got like Harrogate, Stockport, all those type of teams who were they've got promoted from the National League and kind of just kicked on. So that's why I kind of like to say it's League 3, because the standard between the two is not massive. Like Regan said, the jump between the National League North and the National League is quite a big jump, especially for a part-time team. But the jump from National League to League 2, you can see that the top teams that normally go up, they stay up there and do really, really well.
How common is it for players to move up divisions, like, getting bought from the lower leagues?
I feel like it's tough though, and it's maybe at a younger age it's easier if you're doing well, but when you get older it must be near impossible to get a good move. Yeah,
really. But what about the stories that you see in the media, like Jamie Vardy, and Ian Wright, and Kevin Keegan,
Ethan Pennant?
Yeah,
I think it's more kind of if you come through the leagues with that club. I think there's the lad at Luton who's come through from the National League, went all the way through, and is now still with them in the Prem. But I think Connor's right. I think it's harder as you get older, because clubs look at you and think, oh, he's maybe not got long left, so they're not really up to spending money on you to buy and purchase you, when knowing they only got maybe a couple of years left out of you. But for a younger player, someone like Connor's age, a lot of the clubs will be looking, thinking, yeah, we could get 5 years out of him. So it's a lot more appetising for them to go, yeah, we'll have a look at him.
That's interesting, and that is probably what I believed as well. I did think that, having scouted with Chelsea and seen what it's like, even with so much of our focus on under 7s, under 8s, we build very strong under 9 teams, that the core group will generally stay with us through until the under 18s. And now with Brexit, it's even in the past, under 16, there'll be floods of kids coming in from abroad, but now we don't have that anymore. So our core group is staying as it is. It then, I think under 14s it changes, so we can then start recruiting nationally. So then that's where they might have some top players from wherever it might be that then travel down or whatever happens. But yeah, I was thinking that in terms of players coming from the lower leagues, it's very, very hard to do.
Yeah, it's tough. You've got to be kind of really banging goals in every week, or really, really excelling and standing out.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that it's probably more common to have maybe goal scorers or centre-backs. They're the types of players that get brought up, because just talking about what I'm saying about Chelsea, how they have maybe 50 scouts, I think 50 to 40 for a lot focused on younger ages. So they don't have that much resources to send scouts to non-league games. And I'm sure if that's the same for a lot of the other clubs. So then it's probably a lot on data where they're making judgments. So then they will see, oh, Connor's banging in all these goals. How many have you scored recently, Connor?
6 goals.
6 goals, scouts. There's top talent here. Come on. So they'll be looking. They'll be looking on. I don't want to say it's lazy scouting, but it's that people have got so much on their plate, the scouts. They've got so many reports to do. They've got so many players to cover. So it's like they're not necessarily going to get out to watch. And so if you're centre midfield and you've got all these subtleties to your play, you know, you might be scanning, you might be getting into good positions, but they've probably been working really hard on a centre midfielder for years, their own one from their own academy. They're not necessarily looking to buy one from non-league. They might, however, be looking to get a 6'5" centre back that they definitely need to help them with set pieces. Let's say Ethan Pinnock as an example, or someone who just finds the net and they're scoring goals and is just on hot fire. And so they can make the jump because their stats are so. That's like some like theories that I've had around players that make up the jump. But I don't know if that rings true for you guys.
No, I think a lot of clubs now these days are going down the data route.
Yeah,
like statistics and things like that. I think Notts County are massive on it, aren't they? They're really big on their statistics and stats. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the film Moneyball.
Yeah.
I think a lot of great film by the way. A lot of teams are going down that route and looking for stats and things like that. I think a lot of teams are doing that now.
Well, like you said, with stats, all the games are filmed and you can get access to them this day and age. So it's kind of like if scouts can't get to one game, they'll be able to watch 2 or 3 in a weekend just online somewhere. So it's kind of like they'll probably go down that route and see it. They'll obviously look at it, like you're talking about goals and kind of things like that. That's why I think for attackers, it's if you're on fire, then you know, you're going to be kind of up there and in the eye of all these scouts. I think defenders might be a little bit different. It's a bit maybe kind of harder. You might be a great defender, but there's not a lot of kind of big stats on kind of that maybe, or maybe I just don't see it. But I feel like it's definitely more prominent with the attackers scoring goals and kind of doing all that.
So do you guys, not you three sort of specifically, but maybe you three, but just kind of more general at this level, would you work with agents with the aspirations of trying to play at a higher level, and then you're working with an agent to try and engineer a move to a bigger club? Or is that just if you're kind of at your level, you're happy at that level?
Well, I mean, you kind of I could probably speak to all of us here.
High as possible.
You're always going to try and get as high as possible. You always probably from I think it was I just got me pro and then kind of went down the agent route to more at that time to help with loans and everything to get out and get experience. You're always going to have probably one there with you. I think there'll be a couple of people that don't feel the need to have one and can kind of work on moves themselves. But I think it's always good to have them in the background because, you know, you have a good run of games or a good season and that. And clubs kind of like the look of you and come knocking, then you've got someone there to do that side of things and you don't really have to focus on that yourself. You can just focus on continuing playing well and kind of, like I said, get high as in the league as possible.
So is it common for players of this level to have an agent?
I'd say,
yeah, probably everyone would. Yeah,
I think if we went around the dressing room, I think you'd probably say
the whole team probably
near enough.
Near enough.
And will it be with some of the biggest agencies that will also work with Premier League, or is it more sort of smaller boutique agencies that might have just a smaller number of players on their books?
I think it varies.
It does vary, yeah.
You know, like I've played with lads that might have been at a Blackburn Rovers Academy or something like that who, you know, they're in the champ, they're coming through, might have these big companies after them. And then I think at the time when I kind of was breaking through into the Accrington in League Two, it was, you know, you'd get littler companies that kind of, you know, lesser players, but kind of will focus on you a little bit more, maybe if that's the case. And then it's just preference, what you kind of prefer, I guess. If you want someone that's always there, hands on, obviously you're going to go with the company that doesn't have as many players and will focus on you more, or you can go with these big companies that, you know, might offer you boots here and there, but it's just
not really going to answer your calls.
Just down to choice.
Yeah.
So, can you briefly kind of describe when you got into football? Were you kind of in and out of an academy, or was you just at the same place? And then how you kind of ended up specifically here?
I was at Hearts, Celtic and Hibs all at the same time, obviously training with all of them. I think it's different at young. I was like 6, 7, 8, and then by the time I was 10 you had to pick one. So at the time all 3 of them said that they wanted to sign me. But I was like different at that age. I didn't really know how it worked, so Hearts was the closest one for me and I just signed there. And then since I was 10, 11, 12 I just stayed at Hearts, and then when I left school at 15 and I went and signed a pro at 15, which isn't really allowed in England, but wasn't really great in school, so they just let me go. So I signed when I was 15, and then I made my professional debut at Hearts at 16, and then since then I just played a bit at Hearts and then went on 6-7 loans and found myself here. So it's mad how everything really works.
How did you adapt to playing in front of like reasonably big crowds?
Just when I was about 16, 17, I played quite a few big games at Hearts. I played against Celtic at Parkhead, which was it was about 60,000 there. So.
Oh wow!
Did you bring that up or not?
That's first time for it. First time for it.
He doesn't say it a lot, to be fair.
So that was my whole family Celtic fans as well. So that was a good privilege for me.
Oh, what an experience!
Yeah, it was good.
So that's a bit of a baptism of fire, because I often wonder that with like youth players, like how they can make the adaptation from just playing youth games in front of 400 people to then suddenly getting out there in front of thousands. Like, is there a psychological difference? They become too anxious, they start making bad decisions because their head's all over the place. Has that happened with you guys at all? Like, do you remember how you transitioned into playing in front of crowds?
I think for me, I kind of enjoyed it more.
Yeah, I did.
I think for me, it was like growing up, you always dreamed of playing in front of that many thousands of people as young kids. So when you get that opportunity, you're kind of just thinking, you just thrive off it, really. I think the hardest thing for me personally was in lockdown when we played with no fans. That was the hardest. I think it depends what type of player you are. I feed a lot off the fans. A lot of my energy comes from the fans and things like that. It really drives me on. But in lockdown, probably the hardest for me is I found that more being anxious and stuff like that with no fans, because it's just silent.
When you're out and about, do you guys get mobbed?
I've never really,
no, not really. I wouldn't say. I don't live around in Scunthorpe, so I'm over in Doncaster, so I wouldn't say over there. You get it, but you obviously you knock around, you walk in a coffee shop next door, and you kind of get one or two people say like, "Oh my god, that's such and such." Yeah, so
that's such a lie, by the way. Everyone knows a lie. First game of the season, all the fans turned up with fake mullets on. Literally, we looked in the away end and everybody had Regan Ogle masks and mullets on. It was brilliant.
So I don't think I'm allowed to cut it off anymore, so I think it's got to stay.
Because it seems that the Scunthorpe people are so passionate about their club, like crazy passionate. So then, by being able to that's what I was going to ask. Like, you saying that you live in Doncaster. Do you guys live locally to Scunthorpe, or do you live outside?
I do right now, because I stayed 2 minutes up there. So I'm obviously, because Scunthorpe put me in, but I've only been here 2 months. So
You're scoring all these goals.
I know. I get a few. But when I go Costa across the road before the games, just get a coffee, and sometimes, but not much now.
Fair enough.
Sorry, just going back to, because I'm sort of interested in the journeys here. Said at Hearts, and then now here. Accrington Stanley, you said.
Yep.
So was that a Cat 2 academy or Cat 3 academy, or?
I think it was League 2 at the time, so it would have been a Cat 3, I think.
So then, how old were you when you joined there, and then what happened?
I was 11 when I moved over, and I moved over after getting a deal with them. So it was kind of a weird period. It all happened pretty quick for me. 2 weeks out of school, back in Australia. I came over in at trials at Accrington, Preston and Wigan. A couple of them did okay, a bit nervous. It was a completely different, obviously, environment. But fortunate for me, trial at Accrington went really, really well. It was like a couple of days into it, I was offered a contract there, and then parents kind of just put it down to me. They just said, look, it's up to you if you want to do it.
What was football like in Australia at that time?
It was...
compared to England?
Like minimalistic. It's nothing over there.
But I mean, like academy level, sorry.
Nothing. You had A-League and that was it. A-League teams now have started to produce academies. It's going in the right direction massively over there now. I think they've just, as of 2 days ago, introduced a second league below the A-League, and that's coming in like 2025 or something. So they'll have promotion and relegation. But as for when I was there, I played like Saturday league with my mates, my local team.
Just your own age group?
Just my, I think I was like a year above. I think I started like a year early, and then obviously I was playing a year above. And then in New South Wales, they brought in this Project 22, it was called. And it was all the lads in New South Wales just come and trial. Just any age group, you just come and trial, and they'll break you up in each age group. And then into each section, I think it was north, south, east, west, far north, far south, far east, far west. And they were your teams. You were in 2 ages, kind of like youth teams do here, first and second year. And I was lucky enough to get into that. And the whole thing around that was training young lads up because Australia wanted to get the 2022 World Cup. So that's what it was the project for that. So I did that for a year and loved that. And then it was right at the end of the season is when they went down the route of, go to England. A friend of ours did it. And I just went, yep, why not? There's
Were
no
you
harm in
the
trying.
star player out in Australia? Were you?
No, by no
really?
means. No,
Right.
never played for the Australian national team coming up from any age group. It was just I had maybe something that I thought was good enough to come over here, and I thought, why not? I've got the opportunity, may as well take it.
Yeah.
We just took it once I got here. Took it year by year, contract by contract, and you kind of looked. It was like 6-7 years down the line, and I was kind of making my debut as a second-year scholar. So it was kind of moments like that. I'm like, totally worth it. I could go home now, and I can say I've played in the Football League in England. So it was definitely a proud moment for me.
That's what I was going to ask. So you made your debut for them.
Yep.
And then kind of what happened?
It was a weird one. Yeah, so I made my debut as a second-year scholar, then quickly got the pro after that. It was right at the end of the season. And then I would say I was kind of in and out on the bench here and there in my first kind of year there. Young lad, it was tough then at Accrington's. We didn't have a 23s. So you went straight from under 18 straight to the first team, and it's either you're good enough or you don't play or you try and go on loan. Didn't go on loan the first year. I think made maybe 2 or 3 appearances in cups and stuff like that. Nothing major. And then that's when I was like, I just want to play football, and kind of started to be like, look, send me on loan. Send me on loan. I want to go. I think I went in every day for a week straight to the gaffer, and probably got to the point where he was just sick of it and kind of went, all right, I'll let you go. And so I went on a year loan, and funny enough, we were playing tonight at Southport. So had a good season there, really enjoyed it, and so much that I ended up getting loaned back there the following season. But unfortunately, that was when COVID hit, so the season finished there quite early. But I was always just like, I don't really want to sit here and do nothing. It was just, I want to play football. That's all I want to do. And then I think it was like 1 or 2 loans after that, and then the contract kind of ran out at Accrington. Me and the gaffer sat down, both agreed that it was best for me to move on. Ended up Hartlepool signed a 2-year deal there, and after a year, obviously Scunthorpe come knocking, and I just couldn't say no. They promised me game time, which obviously isn't always guaranteed, but I believed them. And then looking back at the season, it wasn't the greatest season for the club, obviously getting relegated again, unfortunately, but I walked away with, I think it was like 37 games, so it was exactly what I wanted, exactly what I needed, and don't regret it.
And Ross, so Scunthorpe used to be Championship at one stage.
Yeah.
So at one stage they had an academy, and that's what you were part of.
Yeah, I remember watching. I'm a Sheffield United fan. I used to go and watch Sheffield United. So I remember watching Scunthorpe beat Sheffield United in the Championship years ago. So I joined the academy at age 10. So my journey is a lot different to the boys here. So I never played in the Football League or played professional like Connor and Riggs. So I was in the academy from under 10 to under 15.
Sorry, back then that would have been just like a normal Cat 2, Cat 3 academy.
We were Cat 3.
Yeah,
we were Cat 3. Literally just trained just up the road from here. And then got released at under 15s after 5 years, and then went to play grassroots and was going on trial places and things like that. But at that time, a lot of teams had already sorted their scholars out. So then I ended up, my dad brought a leaflet home. It was like FC Halifax Town, like open trials. And it was much more like a college program. Obviously, but it was linked to the first team because they didn't have a proper academy because they were non-league. They were in the same league as what we're in now. So I just went and did the college course there, and while playing football alongside it, and was lucky enough at the end of my 2 years to be given a contract with the first team. And then from there just went through the route of non-league football really, and found myself here today.
Oh, brilliant. Because that's like, there are just so many different pathways now into being a quote unquote like professional football player. Like we've said, Premier League down to League 2 is professional, but now this is a professional standard. So 3 completely different journeys, but all ended up living the dream. Like, you get to wake up and say you're a football player and you get paid for it.
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really incredible.
Do any of you have any children?
No.
So,
Skip that question.
if you did have children, would you encourage them to play football?
Tough question, that.
Really?
Yeah.
Is
It is. I don't
I would
know.
encourage them to play, but would you kind of encourage them to try and pursue football as a career?
I think I would encourage them to play, but I think I wouldn't send them into an academy as young. I think I'd let them enjoy, like, I don't know what they call it here, but we call it boys club back in Scotland. So I think I'd let them do that before they go into like an academy, because I feel like I was just playing because I played for Hearts at the time. I wasn't enjoying myself as much. All my mates were out like winning trophies at their like boys club teams, and I was like playing to try and get a contract. Obviously, it worked for me, but
they make it footballers?
Nah, none of them. But I feel like I would maybe just say boys club to start with, and then if you're enjoying that, then wait until you're a bit older before you try and go professional.
It's difficult though, because then the longer you leave, the harder it is to get into that system. There's a lot there.
But I think it comes down a little bit because you're not the first footballers who've given that answer. I think there are quite a few footballers that they make it, but they're not looking for their kids to be footballers. You're shaking your head, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think, like I said, everyone's different. Like I said, you've had different answers from a lot of footballers. For me, like, I'd like them to play football, but I'm not sure I'd want them to pursue it as a career.
Really?
Yeah, I think
Why?
I just think because of, I sometimes feel guilty when I'm coaching as well at this, is that sometimes people don't realise what comes with playing professional football, how tough it is, and I think physically, and like Connor said, there's a lot of sacrifices you have to make with not spending time with your mates and things like that. You miss out on a lot growing up, and also how damaging it can be, kind of physically, mentally, and it can really take its toll on you. So, and I think as a father, I'm not sure I'd want my child to go through that. But if that's what they wanted, then I'd obviously 100% support them, like my mum and dad supported me, because it was my dream. They supported me for everything that I've done. I'd support them. But if they didn't want to pursue it as a career, I think part of me inside would be very happy.
That's so interesting. Really, what do you think?
No, I totally agree. I think I'm in a weird situation because I've probably got my heart set on moving back to Australia. That's
right.
That's kind of, I'm here for football and I love being here, and everything. But it's a little different for me now. My family and all that live over there. Like, just me and my sister here. So my parents are back there. But I mean, like, I'll probably do what my parents did. They never forced me in any sport. I think I've played every sport under the sun growing up, especially over there. It's just kind of the way of life. You kind of play everything. So as long as I would like my kids to be sporty, that's all I've ever known. And I love sport. And then it's just let them go with it. And whatever they want to play, more than welcome to play. And I'll support them in that. I think it's just the right path.
We did an interview with Reece and Lauren James's dad, Nigel James, and he said something similar. He said that the amount of effort you put in.
Add to you.
Make it, you could put that same effort in, or he said in the episode, you could become the president. I think he was being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but there's something in, like, the amount of work it takes. And then he's been so fortunate because both his kids, well, he's got 3 kids, but 2 of his kids ended up playing at the very, very top and getting fortunes and living that life. But yeah, majority it doesn't work out like that. We had, do you know the guy Daniel Cutting? He's a freestyler, and then now sort of transitioned into content creating. He said of what he earns off YouTube and social media, he said that he thinks he earns more than championship players. And then we were talking about his kid, and we were saying, are you going to encourage him to try and be pro? And he was really torn with it. And he was sort of a bit like, well, he would definitely be encouraging him to get into social media. He's already set up a page for him. He's got something like 300,000 followers already, this little kid. Yeah, exactly. And he's already now giving him the formula. He's teaching him what it takes to be a successful YouTuber, because there's loads of like work the algorithm and what you need to do to win at that. And he thinks that the effort you put into that is more worthwhile. You get a better return on investment than football, because football is so risky. It's so hard to make it at the very, very top levels.
Do any of you think you could have done more growing up? Like, how dedicated were you? Was you training like pretty much every day? Can you look back and go, actually, could have done this, could have done that?
I feel like everyone could have done a bit more, but I feel like all of us have sacrificed a lot probably to get to where we are. But if we wanted to maybe go further, we probably could have done more.
I think it comes to a certain point though where, yes, you sacrifice so much, and like I said, I think everybody can look back and say, I could have done a little bit more here, a little bit more there. But I think also you kind of need to think, I look back and I think, actually, I'm kind of glad I didn't do that, because my childhood would have been completely gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have had any childhood, which I think is such an important thing to have growing up.
Interesting.
So I think that's really important.
You couldn't have done much more.
Yeah, I think I started with a big sacrifice, but I wouldn't even say it's a sacrifice coming here, because it'd probably be more for my sister, my parents, a sacrifice and everything. But at the time for me, that's all I wanted to do. So yeah, okay, I did sacrifice probably a lot in terms of when I was in school and kind of like, no, I've got training, I can't go to this house party, or I can't, see my mates. But at the time, I was there for football, so it was kind of easier I've moved here for football, and that's what I want to do. It was easier to kind of block it out. Looking back on it, it's like, I wouldn't mind enjoying times like that, but certainly wouldn't change it for the world. Like, I wouldn't do anything different. Like Con said, everyone can say they can train more, but it's just part and parcel of it.
Really, really interesting answers. I want to just shift things to really focusing on the football now. And I've had some people say that football in the Premier League or whatever is almost like a different game to what it is at like non-league level. What do you think of that statement?
Totally agree, Paul.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just the finer things. That's the reason we're here for a reason. It's the top level players are there for a reason. It's them little things, the touch, the pass, their ability on the ball and off the ball. It might not be a million miles away, but it's them slight percentages that are the reason why they're there and we're down here.
Okay.
And it's them things. Sometimes you've got it or you haven't. Sometimes you can work on it, and sometimes it's just God-given talent. So there is a big, I'd say, difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you describe those differences? Off camera, Connor, you were saying that why is lower league football more direct?
Yeah, I don't really know. Obviously, I've never played in the Premier League, but I don't really know. I think it's just because, as Reeg says, they're here for a reason. They can't play out from the back, so they need to do that.
So you think it is direct? Like when you're playing games in this division, it's in the air a lot more than what you see Man City do?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah,
okay.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. You don't see, obviously, nearly every team in the Prem now keeps a goal kick. The centre-backs are splitting and they're looking to play out and the ball's on the floor, whereas you probably see the game tonight, they'll have a goal kick and they'll all be squeezed up and we'll be ready to head it.
Really?
Yeah.
That happens literally every goal kick from most of the games. And is that even in National League as well? Is it?
Yeah.
What percentage of
We
teams
do
will
that.
have centre-backs split?
We do it, to be fair. We play.
You will play out.
We would rather a team come out and play against us.
Yeah.
Like, they want to come and kick it because they know that we want them to play.
Yeah, I watched you guys against Banbury.
Yeah.
When you on your shoulder. Yeah.
Good time when it comes
back.
back.
The one Scunthorpe game I watched, really badly injured.
Yeah.
It was night and day. Like you guys were head and shoulders better than them, but you could tell. And then so what they did, they just kept going on.
Yeah.
Putting it on your head, and then just smashing you.
He's rapid though, isn't he?
He's
absolutely rapid.
Yeah, that's what got me into trouble. I probably should have gone for it, but it's what it is.
But I wondered if that was a stereotype. I wondered if things had changed over the years and it's not so direct, and maybe the influence of better pitches, like 3Gs more at non-league level, and players coming down from academies, from like Cat 1 academies coming into lower league football, and maybe things might have changed a bit, but you're saying no.
If you look at at our level, you're probably looking more direct, because I think because a lot of the teams are part-time, they don't have the time to work on a style of play.
Yeah.
Like we work a lot on training patterns of play, and you've got to be here in this area and make this run. Whereas teams, when they've been at work all day, like it's a part-time, they've been at work, so they don't know what they've been doing, they've been working in an office, and they're training at night, the manager's like, they've been at work all day, don't really want to be putting all this into them, because they're probably not going to remember half of it. Whereas, like I said, for us, because we've got all day to work on things and we can do it, but in the National League now, I think like last season, Notts County were absolutely unbelievable. Probably the best team I played against in terms of the way they moved the ball and just pinned us in. It was absolutely unbelievable. Like, outstanding, yeah.
I'd imagine over the last 15 years, it's got a lot better. It's still more direct.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you look back 15 years ago, the pitches weren't as nice.
Yeah, the pitches now.
So it's definitely got better, but it's still.
But even with the pitches being better, you're saying that 80% of teams around this division and division above are going to be taking goal kicks going long. On 80% of their goal kicks.
I'd say so. Again, it comes down to your gaffer at the end of the day as well. What his style of play that he wants to play. I can't remember. Obviously, played against the likes of Sutton. They were a very direct team.
Really,
their gaffer just liked to feed off second balls. Very quick wingers that just run in behind. And I was going to say that's what they're kind of and it worked for
recruit the player. If you've got that style of
100%.
If your manager has said, right, this is how we're going to play, I want that as my identity, then you find quick winners. Like you'll make
try to find, but the clubs at this level have that resource to go out and to recruit that sort of player.
I think in terms of
quick players, in
terms of the recruitment, it's becoming a lot easier. So like we talked about the data, there's a platform. Is it Y Scout? Yeah. There's a platform called Y Scout where every single player's on there. Every player in this league above, even up to the Premier League. So all the games are filmed and put on there. All your stats are on there, all your clips, your highlighted clips, everything. So clubs can go on and look. So we get all our footage, like for analysis, on there. Because every team, I think they have to, don't they? They have to
along the lines.
Yeah, they have to upload it up onto the system. So you could go on and you could type in Jude Bellingham or whoever, and all these clips would come up. You'd be able to watch all these clips. Pretty sure it's an international platform where you can go and find.
So players. I'm thinking, if we're saying that, right, we've got almost these two different games, we're very direct, and do you see that in League 2 as well? Was League 2 direct? Did they start?
I wouldn't say maybe as much, but there's definitely teams that do it. I think it's just part and parcel of it. There's teams that are going to be like, I think I seen something on Twitter the other day. It was passes in their own half before getting it forward, and it was like there was a fair few teams that were very direct and would have one or two, and then they're hitting the strikers or something.
That's League 2,
that. Yeah, League 2, and then obviously had the likes of like Notts County that were kind of the complete other end of the spectrum, where they'd pass around the back four, get it moving, and kind of get it up there that way. So it's definitely up there. It's just probably not as common.
I know with the 6, 7, 8-year-olds that I work with that I'm trying to help get signed to Chelsea, I'm seeing a player's first touch, and I know that needs to improve. We need to get that better. We need to get that better off both feet, because in my head, I'm thinking if you're going to make it all the way, and Chelsea are signing players for that with that long-term potential, so they need a player that can play in those tight pockets, that can do all the things at the pace of the Premier League with such little time on the ball. So then you're coaching in that way, whereas maybe if you're coaching a player that you know is going to play a lower division with a different type of football style, maybe you become less concerned about some of those things. That's my question. Like, does coaching change, do you think, for the lower league clubs in their academies?
That's really interesting for you, Ross, because obviously you're a coach. do you have maybe a philosophy and a mindset of, can I make you a little bit more of an effective player to maybe play at a lower league, or how do you approach your coaching maybe?
The way I approach my coaching is just to be, a lot of mine's more technique based. So make sure they're comfortable on the ball. So we always like to start with like a speed and agility warm up, because you look at the players these days. I mean, if you ever watch Regan play, he's absolute powerhouse. He's quick. He's agile. I think the modern day player now, you look at Bellingham, his balance is unbelievable. So you got to be a good athlete, but then got to be able to handle the ball. And I think if you can handle the ball and look after the ball, you can play at majority of the levels, as long as you get that experience of playing men's football. Like Connor's had his loans, that's important, because I've seen a lot of players when they come from we've had lads come on loan from Bournemouth at previous clubs and places like that, where they come into the team and they're not up to scratch, and they can't really hack the men's game because they've been so used to pass, where we just taught that it's a direct game and teams can't really handle that. So for me personally, when I'm coaching, I try and look at all the aspects, but mainly technique based, because I feel like if you look at the game now, as long as you have the ball at your feet and you're good with the ball at your feet, I feel like you can do well in the game.
I remember I spent some time coaching at QPR, and the guy who was the academy director to start with then was a guy called Steve Brown. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think he's like an ex-Wycombe player, and then he got the academy job at QPR. Anyway, like I'd just come from Chelsea, and then I was a bit sort of like, maybe a bit like shocked by how different it was. And then it was an under-14 session that I was watching, and they were doing throw-ins, and then they'll come in and then hooking the ball on. And I'm just like, why are you wasting time learning hooks? Like, you don't need to learn that. Yeah. Like, if you can set the ball and you can do a volley, you don't need to waste time like actually hoofing the ball in an area. Or people could just do that on their own. But maybe it's necessary. Maybe players, if they're going to be trying to be effective at lower league football, maybe the coaching has to adapt a little bit. I don't know.
Just quickly on that, I currently coach a player who's done session with a lad who's at Man City, and we always do speed and agility in the warm-up, and he told me that they never do any SAQ or speed and agility stuff in the academy, which I found baffling, because a lot of the way they play is everything's with the ball. They don't have to like sprint and change direction or chase the ball or be agile, because a lot of stuff they do is with the ball. But I find that baffling because I understand they're creating a player to play in Man City, but I don't think that does the players any good, because not every single player in that team is going to go and play for City. So he's under 16, so he's just coming towards his decisions. So I feel like a lot of the academies, the clubs are being selfish in terms of trying to create a player for that club, but I think it should change where you should try and create the whole player so they can get used to playing in that environment, because not every player is going to play at that level. They got to learn, if they come down here and they play in this league, they got to learn how to play in that league and understand different ways of playing.
Do you think that very few top Cat 1 players can drop down and play low league football?
That's a tough one.
I feel like they can.
In theory, yeah.
You'd like to think so.
Say yeah. But I feel like...
In what positions? All the positions?
I feel like it'd be easier as well to play. Like,
easier for who?
Like for them to play, as in like they always like come from a bigger club, so like the managers like never like always just going to play them no matter what until.
Oh, okay. So they get more opportunity.
Yeah, that's what
they'll keep playing until it clicks.
Yeah, until they have a few bad games, then drop. But from the start, they'll play no matter what.
But then the tools they've been given in the Cat 1 training, do you think they have enough of the tools to compete and earn a place at this level?
Well, I mean, use Jacob Butterfield as an example.
Yeah.
Our centre midfielder, he's had a great career, high level championship and that, and you just kind of watch him and he's both feet. To this day, I've played with him a year and a half and I don't know what foot he is. He's frightening with both feet. He'll take one corner right foot, go across, take it left foot, and you just look at him and you think, in theory, you should be able to. He's a centre mid. Obviously, then things change. I think in our league, it's a lot more hectic, so you kind of press 24/7. You run around and you're always under the pump. I don't think teams might sit off us, but there's little things like that where I think that maybe, and obviously pitch and everything, stuff like that comes into play, bobbles and everything like that, and getting pressed at the time. But in theory, with the ability that all these top players have, I think they'd that'd be more than fine.
But like with that, do you guys sort of think about your futures here then, and think about players coming in, and then where does that leave you? What are your thoughts on like your future in the next 3 to 5 years?
Obviously, my future is just to play for Hearts. I've been Hearts fan since I've been young, so I've played a bit, but my future would be, the only part of going on loan is to get more games and then go back to your parent club. So my future in the next 3 to 5 years would be to be a regular starter for Hearts back in Scotland.
We're a little bit different to that, aren't we?
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, yeah, you do. You think, all right. So mine, like I said before, I'll end up back in Australia, whether that's after 30 or before 30. You know, I'm not against going and playing in the A-League. It just is at the right time. Right now, probably not. 24. I don't want to go back yet, but give it a couple of years and the right deal might come along. Then that's something I'll definitely look at. That's more down to a lot of my family have never seen me play football because I came here at such a young age. All my uncles and aunties and everyone and cousins and everything, they only hear about it, never see it. So for me, I'm kind of I'm set on that going home. It's a matter of when for me.
I'm just taking it back a step to just some of the stuff, like talking about the tools that you give players so they can forge out a career. And literally, I had a conversation with my friend who's involved with Man City's under 18s, under 21s. I was saying to him, what percentage do you reckon of the players that are in 18s to 21s are going to play Prem or Championship from your group?
All right. 2%?
We thought 5%, but that was probably maybe a bit generous.
Maybe about 2%.
You think 2%? Okay. So 2% are going to play Championship or above.
I don't think that's just because of ability. I don't think it's that low just because they're not good enough on ability. I think it's the other side. I think it's the mental side from that.
Okay.
In terms of, we'll have seen it, especially like for Connor as well. I mean, you've been in an academy for so long, for so many years, and that's all you know. If you then don't get a new deal, or for example, you see it a lot, the drop off from lads playing football from 18 to 21 is massive because they get released and they're thinking, what do I do? And they lose a love for it massively, and they give it up because they think it's not worth it because of how much sacrifice that they put in, and they don't see that reward because they've been released. They just give it up and think it's not really worth it. So I think that percentage will be a lot lower, not based on ability, but based on more the mental side and how tough it is and the sacrifice and how mentally draining it can be and that disappointment.
Because you went over to Ajax recently. If you get it to 16 at Ajax, it's like a 90% chance of becoming a footballer.
Oh yeah. So if you're in the Ajax system at under 17 or older, I can't remember it.
But it's becoming.
It's like 17
late now.
But it's like, you're making it as a professional footballer, but that's sort of any division. That's your full-time footballer.
Yeah.
I think Chelsea have a similar stat. Like, if you make it into the under 18s, then it is something like 90%. But that could be playing in America. That could be playing, I don't know, wherever. But you're a full-time footballer. It's really interesting what you were saying there, Ross, because I'm thinking about those players that do get let go. They've had in their mind, I'm going to be a Premier League player. This is going to be my lifestyle. This is what my Instagram is going to look like.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going to be shopping. These are my holidays. It's that. And then it doesn't work out how they hope it does. And then they're potentially having to build up a career from the bottom leagues. And I think I've been so impressed being taken around here today. But it does look different to Cobham.
Yeah.
And so then how can the players react to things not being the same? Are they going to roll up their sleeves and do that? And mentally, that's very hard for a lot to do, probably.
Yeah, that's why I said earlier about the fact that when I've seen lads come on loan from those Cat 1 clubs and then come into the side at this level and the level above, and they're just nowhere near it. There's just absolutely nowhere, because they can't get used to the environment and can't get used to the bobbly, horrible pitches, and the teams are going to be pressing them and things like that. They're just, because a lot of them players who normally come out on loan are the ones who have been playing 23s So, like, if you've got like an established first team player who comes out on loan, yeah, I'd expect them to absolutely rip it up. But if you've got someone who's kind of been playing 23s, it's a completely different game. If you put someone from, I think you probably agree, someone from a 23s game, been playing constantly all season 23s into a National League North game on a Tuesday night, they'd struggle.
But what was the competition where they were mixing them up quite a bit? LDV vans?
Is it the Papa John's?
Yeah. It's changed.
Yeah, we had the 23s versus the Prem 23s and that.
Yeah. So how is that working out?
I mean, as weird as it is, I probably don't watch as much football as I should.
Fair enough.
But I've played in it a couple of times and played against a couple of 23s teams. There was one case where we played Wolves or something like that, and I was at Accrington League 2, and I think they smashed us.
They smashed you?
Yeah, I think it was something like 3 or 4-0, like comfortable. Obviously, it does change in terms of I was a youth team player, second year scholar at the time. So the teams are kind of weakened in terms of it would be your fringe players will play or lads that need some minutes for the first team I'm talking about.
Okay.
And then I can imagine the 23s team is going to be full strength. So it does kind of chop and change a bit. I think if you put a full strength League 1, League 2 team out against obviously a 23s team, I think it'll be a good match. It'll just come down to kind of who controls it. So I think if you have a direct team and they control it, I think the 23s might find it a little bit difficult, under pressure a lot. Might be at the non-league team or the lower league team pitch and it's a bit bobbly. So there's all these things kind of come into play. Whereas then if you have the perfect conditions, then I think maybe the 23s kind of will come away with it. So it does. I mean, it's different for every team and every style of play, but I don't know what I think.
So that is a bit different, I suppose, because psychologically the 23s are with their parent club, they're with their type of coaches, they're with all their mates, so they're probably more comfortable in that. But to your point there, saying an individual comes in on a Tuesday night and they're going to struggle, maybe individually that is where it's not going to work for them.
Yeah, I think also as well coming into a man's changing room as well, which I think which is a big thing as well. Where
describe that.
Just in terms of the fact you're going to have senior, like in the 23s, a lot of the lads are obviously the same age. I think now you look at 23s football, you've got 16-year-olds playing, 17-year-olds playing. Whereas back in the day, obviously reserves, you had first team players coming back from injury playing. So I feel like in terms of when you've got like senior pros where it's their job essentially on the line. And even if you go like part-time, they're knowing the fact that if they win, they get a bonus that's going to help put food on the table for their families, for their kids. And you got the winger who's just come out on loan and he's like being a bit show pony and not really wanting to get stuck in, and he's letting his winger, not tracking his winger. You're going to get some 35-year-old bloke coming in the dressing room tearing you to shreds, and you got to be able to take that on the chin and handle
ruthless.
that.
Yeah, a lot more ruthless.
Something that Ajax do is every home game they have 4 academy players go into the changing room just to experience
a match.
That's
massive.
Just to experience a changing room.
That's good.
You saw it on the
literally
Beckham
got
documentary.
4 spaces. So in the changing room, every space has the player's name above it, and then there's 4 without a name. So they'll pick 4 academy players to come in.
That's good.
Space.
Yeah, that is good.
So it is literally just to like what you do on a match day. Show up at this time. This is the cleaner. This is whatever. You start to meet the staff there. Experience like first team banter and all that sort of stuff. So then when they come into play, they're ready for it.
You saw it on the Beckham documentary. Obviously, Fergie took Beckham into the dressing room at a young age just so he could see what it was like. I mean, I always laugh at you look at the Neil Warnock TikToks and stuff like that. You see Neil Warnock. That's what it's like in a dressing room.
I can imagine.
It does get like that at times.
What about who was the famous one a few years ago? Sinton? Andy Sinton?
And is it Andy Sutton? When you say, "I'll bring you dinner."
Yeah,
that's is that still? Or is it?
Maybe not as bad, but I've seen people get pinned up and I've seen managers to threaten smashing people over the head with a tactics board and threaten to could strangle him, and it is like that compared to a 23s where it's
don't really care, is it?
Well, I never was in the 23s, so I wouldn't know.
And there's a
he was at Watford, and when he was with the 23s, I think it was Sean Dyche at the time. Loved him as a player. Sean Dyche left. Whilst he left, my friend progressed into the first team. When Dyche came back, he said that Dyche loved him when he's in the 23s, so he's buzzing. Like, he's just broken into the first team. His old manager's coming back, who said he loved him, so he's absolutely buzzing, thinking he's going to get a chance. And the first thing Sean Dyche does is release him and say, "You're not ready for this." I loved working with you in the 23s, and you was a great player. That's when my job was to develop a talent, and that's what you were. Now my job is just to create a winning team. And I just can't see how you're going to kind of fit into this culture that I'm going to be building. And that was it. He's gone.
So it's cutthroat football, and that's why it comes back to the question you said about talking about our kids. Like, imagine as a parent trying to pick that player up and stuff like that, and it's like
there's a lot of boxers that make career as boxers, but then it's like they're doing that for their family, so they've gotten themselves maybe out of a situation, they've made this career, but it's like they wouldn't want to put their kid getting smashed around in the head, because it's like that was just their step, and now the kid is going to maybe like do something else where they don't get punched in the head. I'm not like comparing football to boxing is different, but you see the extreme, you see the sort of analogy.
You don't want your kid to go through the pain and the torture of getting heartbroken and stuff like that, and going through that pain.
And I think we should have balance, because we also don't want to just paint a really negative picture.
I mean,
a lot of upsides.
I'm sure you guys are really excited to play in front of fans tonight.
I'm guessing your lifestyles are brilliant.
Wouldn't complain. That's what I mean.
The memories we've all created within football, that's huge. Like, massive.
You're in at 9:30. You can sometimes get away by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and that's you done for the day.
Depending on what many jobs you can.
You've got on that day.
It's a big thing that through doing these episodes of Project Footballer, a big thing that I wanted to teach parents is the realities behind making a child, or the child becoming a footballer. And it's like, do you really want to go through the sacrifice? Because it's all well and good saying that you want your kid to be a footballer, but you need to understand that hours and hours and hours of practice involved, driving the commitment of the parent and the commitment of that child. And then if you're willing to do all of that, then, okay, well, here's what you could potentially do, but understand the sacrifice required.
And understanding as well that it's not all rosy as well. The fact that there's going to be those down moments. Like we talk about the memories and winning leagues and winning trophies, which is absolutely brilliant. And the memories we've created with friends, and it's outstanding. But parents sometimes don't understand what comes with the negative side of how hard it is. I mean, there's always something, I think it's on Go, I think it's a footballer iceberg, where it's kind of on the bottom, that shows you the top bit, which is like above the water, which is all the brilliant stuff. Your boot deal, your sponsors or whatever. And then below is like the stresses of your relationship with your manager, and the stresses of not playing, and things like that, really. The pressures that come with playing.
Not getting picked,
like trying to deal with contracts and stuff like that. It's tough.
Going back to players who, maybe compensate for their lack of technique. I'm thinking of Roy Keane as an example. Maybe he's not the best, and maybe I'm doing a bit of a disservice, because he was a clever, good player, made good decisions and passed the ball well. But he's not super technical, he's not that sort of, he's not Iniesta, he's not Xavi. But then maybe he's built up his character with this aggression, with this big presence on the pitch, and he's become like very, very effective. Do you think there's a lot of non-league players who use that bravado, who have a lot of the dark arts? I'm thinking like Vinnie Jones, those sort of players. Does that happen?
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think also you go back to it. He's a winner, isn't he? Every team needs. He's a born
that mentality.
Winner. Which drives the dressing room.
And that's why he's a skipper. That's why he was the leader. He just controlled everything. Whether it was, being that aggressive side. You see him flying into a tackle. You're going to get up for it, surely, and just that alone can kind of bring the best out of all the other players around you.
But so do you see that a lot more in lower league football, though? Like that sort of desire, that aggression, like much more than maybe higher division players?
Don't see it much in higher division players anymore, do you? It's usually just the Roy Keanes and that was back in the day, but there's no one really like that anymore, really.
Whereas, so for you guys tonight, when you've got a corner, are you expecting people to be stepping on your toes? Are people going to be pinching?
Yeah.
Are you getting elbows
Bruises.
on the cheek? Yeah.
I've had my hair pulled, I've had everything. I mean, that's my own fault for having long hair. I've had it all, pinches, bruises, you get little digs in the ribs, you get toes stepped on, everything under the sun they'll do.
What sort of verbals might they say?
I feel like me as a winger as well, I'm always trying to go past people, and then as soon as I'm being kicked or whatever, it's not just that, they're not finished, they'll come back and try and stamp on your like fingers or whatever like that. But
Stamp on your fingers, yeah?
Yeah, stuff like that.
What might they say as well?
Don't know if I can say it on camera.
Say it. So they're trying to get in your head.
Yeah, just like maybe diving prick and stuff like that. But just try to get in your head. They would even go as far as saying stuff about families and stuff like that.
What do you think they do research on your family?
No,
it's
just
trying to
in
get in your
general.
head.
Probably
say stuff about your mum and that.
You might not even have a missus, and they'll say something. That doesn't make sense. But they'll just, it's just you got your common shouts that they'll kind of come out with and stuff. So it's, personally, I love it.
I don't mind it.
Some players will crumble, some will kind of have a little laugh with it.
But you guys have adapted, whereas we're sort of using the example earlier on with the Cat 1 players who drop down, and maybe that's such a shock to the system, and they can't cope with that.
Yeah, it's quite funny actually, because I've got a lad who I coach. He's at Sheffield United, Cat 2, and really good midfielder. And his dad brings his little brother to his sessions, and just to get his little brother to wind him up in his sessions.
Oh, right.
Honestly, it's absolutely brilliant, and it's helped him develop so much more in terms of being able to deal with making a mistake and things like that. Because it's sometimes I try to coach him, and his little brother's there. He'll he may miss a pass or whatever, and his little brother's there chirping away.
That's so funny.
But it's helping him learn in a different way and get used to that, because it's his dad saying to him, "Look, you're going to get that when you get older.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen."
I was going to say exactly Tiger Woods.
Do
you know what Tiger Woods' dad did?
No.
Right, so from a very, very young age, let's say like 8 years old, 9 years old, he'd be putting, but then he wouldn't just let him just putt. He'd then be like jangling his keys, throwing things at him. But it got worse. Like he ended up starting giving him like racist abuse. Like he was just like getting at him. Yeah, it's really, really nuts.
We all thrive off it though, don't we? I think.
I think
Especially when the fans start, it gets you.
A lot of the time, you obviously, both of you know, kind of playing on the edge of the pitch.
Yeah.
I probably zone out a lot in the game and don't hear it a lot. But then as soon as the ball goes out and you've got to take a throw in, it's that little break in play that you might start hearing it, or they might just be, the grounds, look how close the grounds are out there, they're kind of on top of you. So, they're kind of like in your ear straight away, and I kind of like it, so I'll join in with them, just say whatever they're saying, and I think it annoys them more than not, so then they'll just keep going. But if I can get to them just by singing along or something, then I've done my job and I can just go and play.
Tamworth away.
Tamworth away.
Tamworth away, first game.
Yeah,
and then just give it that one, didn't you? Class.
Redneck, where's your caravan, all this, that. So I'd come over, take a throw in, start singing with them, and kind of give them a flick of the mullet, and off I'd go. So luckily we won that one. So
every throw in to series, just
But like for coaches, have you done your B license?
I'm not yet.
No, okay. But on our badges, there's not anything teaching about gamesmanship or dark arts or how you deal with a 35-year-old man elbowing you in the head.
I think it's one of them where I think on the coaching courses they don't really want to
highlight them things.
Highlight them things and be telling the young kids about that type of stuff. They don't want it coming from coaches anyway, because I feel like it can be, if you tell little Josh or something to go and do something on a weekend, and he goes and does it, and his parents are getting in trouble, and they come knocking on your door and going, "Why are you telling my lad to do that?" For me, my dad it was my dad who taught me all about it.
I'm the same.
From when I was about 16, he was the one who introduced me to that.
How do you coach coaches to coach that? Imagine going on one of the courses.
I don't want to get pitched.
But we're discovering this is how to play the game. Like at some point you need to learn it.
I sent it forward.
Yeah, Danny.
He's got it. It is one of them things where you've got it in you or you haven't.
Yeah.
I don't know about that though. From a young age, I'll go back to the example of the film 300. It's one of my favourite films. You seen 300?
The
Spartans.
Yeah.
The Spartans, they're not raising children that are not going to be warriors. They're all going to be warriors.
Yeah.
And so that's come from the environment. It's not just all like the genetics. It's like, right, we're going to chuck you out with the wolves and then you've got to survive. And I think there is some stuff with environment.
Yeah, I think also, I think
it's an undenying tale to pull hair and toes. And...
No, I don't. I don't know that I even have the answer. What I do think, though, is that we can't just neglect it. Like, it's something that it feels like it's a taboo, when in the reality of football, it's something that goes on at first team level.
Yeah, because
it's so common.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do is you're trying to gain any advantage you can.
Yeah,
any advantage.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's been times where I remember someone did it to me when I was younger, and then I've started doing it. I must have only been about 16, 17. It was like playing in a pre-season game against Stockport. I was only a young kid playing against this experienced fullback. I had the ball in, he's like taunting me, like, go on, take me on, I dare you. I absolutely bottled it and crumbled. Absolutely bottled it and crumbled. And from that day, I was like, he got in my head massively. And like, so you're gaining any advantage to try and put your opponent off their game and stuff like that. I mean, our centre forward, how many people got sent off this season? 3?
2 or 3.
2 or 3. He's got our centre forward just from winding him up and just getting them to nibble and react.
Play the game.
Yeah, he knows how to play the
reaction,
game.
makes the most of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of them things.
But it's exactly that. It's like something I always tell them is when you start playing good football or a good level of football, your opposition will quickly find out how they can wind you up. And then if they see that you can, if they see that they can, and they see that you bite, they won't stop until you get sent off.
Yeah.
So it's
definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. It's definitely something that. When do you start to coach it? I don't know. But
I'm doing a podcast next week with the SE Dons.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be the theme of that episode. So
they are dog hearts.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to we've got Paul Merson in that episode, and we're going to really get into it. It's been so good hearing from you guys. Thank you so much for your time. Final question from me. I don't know if you've got any more, Matthew, but the Saudi League. Have you guys thought about that? Like, you know, I know it seems a crazy thing because we're seeing all the sort of like the very, very top players, but surely they're trying to grow that league and just have opportunities for everyone.
I've never thought about actually going over, but if they offer you unbelievable money, you can't turn that down, can you? It's impossible.
Put in front of you, it's harder to probably say no if it's, a good deal and that, but
I've heard like lower leagues down there are getting like 50 grand a week.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it on Twitter, don't you? Just
you can't
random things about it. And
they're really trying to grow it.
Yeah, I think, like I said, if the money's right and the deal's right, it's important. And it's not that like it's all about the money and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, you're providing for your family and your future. So
it depends on where you are in your career
as well. So like if
coming to an end,
if someone
might be the right option.
If you're working at Asda and they're offering you £10 an hour, Tesco offering you £12 an hour, you're going to go Tesco, aren't you? That's like how I like to put it to other people.
Get you.
But like I said, I think it's got to be the right time. Be the right time.
No, I guess any sort of I mean, you're still technically with Hearts.
Yep.
But you've had some loans.
Yep.
You was at Accrington, now here.
Yep.
And then Scunthorpe, then released, but then back at Scunthorpe. Mm-hmm. So, any last kind of last message to give to players that are currently going through the system,
or the parents of players going through the system,
might get released. How can they deal with that? And do you encourage them to just kind of keep persevering? I know we touched on it earlier about maybe not, but you guys are living the life of professional football players.
I think for me, I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. So in terms of like me getting released at 15 has enabled me to come back here. I think also like if you do get released, it's not necessarily a bad thing. There's always something else further down the line. You may not realise that reason why now, but further down the line it'll come to light. But also just keep believing, because at the end of the day, no matter what level you go and play at, if you're earning £20 to go to play a game of football, you're getting paid to play football. It's £20 that's going to go in your car for petrol. So I think it's just, no matter what, keep believing. And at the end of the day, the game is about opinions. So one person will have one opinion about you, another coach will have a different opinion. Just keep that in your mind.
Definitely clip that.
Yeah, they should.
And boys, any...
To be honest, Ross, you
just
kind of
touched
got
everything.
it all,
There's nothing else to say after that.
It's just about, just like you said, on getting released and that, it's that fine line between forcing them to do something or like force them into the game and then being there to just support them and kind of back them up when they probably need it most. I think that's the kind of the big thing I found, that my parents were there supportive whenever I need them. That helped me massively.
Well, I hope you win the game tonight. We'll be watching, cheering for you. But yeah, thanks again for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.